here we are, transforming daily QA for busy clinics. It's an introduction to our new QA BeamChecker Pro. There seems to be, so to just get started, I'll just tell you a little bit about what I see in trends. There seems to really be a trend in medical QA devices, very much as we see with LINAC technology, that to have the most components, the most complex software, it does it all, and it'll do whatever you name, is sort of the eternal goal. However, feedback we get from clinicians routinely is that complexity is not always helpful and very often very unhelpful because it actually slows them down and it costs too much. So we've heard you loud and clear. Keeping things sufficient is efficient. And therefore, we'd like you to keep things simple, make it fast, and make it last. So how do we help do that? We, as you all know, we are very well known for our hardware. So what makes our BeamChecker so simple, so fast, and so long lasting, right? We have increased the number of detectors without exaggeration, which provide added measurement details without slowing down performance. We've added support for 10 by 10 field size testing, and we've modernized connectivity to take advantage of Wi-Fi use where available and Ethernet where it isn't. More ways that the QA BeamChecker Pro keeps it simple and makes it fast for you is that the new design incorporates the latest ion chamber technology. We've changed to a uniform 1 cm inherent buildup over the measurement chambers and updated the energy chamber designs so that it is a single setup for all you need to perform QA. For those of you who are familiar with our QA BeamChecker Plus, it means that with the new device, our Pro, no more flipping of the device for electron versus photon energy testing is necessary. One thing we did keep and improved upon with our touchscreen display is that we kept our incredibly popular software-free, cable-free, standalone mode of operation. Standalone mode is possible thanks to our unique automatic energy detection algorithm and our device design. We've also improved the workflow in standalone mode by incorporating a device auto reset after an out of tolerance measurement has been detected. Detected issues flash on screen for 5 seconds before the auto reset occurs, thus eliminating potentially extra trips into the vault to manually reset the device. Again, a good time saver. You can be ready to acquire measurements with only 3 taps on the touchscreen display. No rigid beam delivery routine is required. We all know that you have a QA plan created for all your energies and field sizes. And of course, we support the use of that very, very simply. A fully charged device lasts 60% longer than our current BeamChecker Plus, so 8 hours of use. There is also a built-in automatic shutdown after 30 minutes of non-use, just to make sure that you get the most out of every charge. Because we all know that therapists are very rushed in the morning, and they may not put the device back on the charging data cradle, or they may not shut off the device. They got the data they wanted in standalone mode and move on to the next thing. So the BeamChecker Pro now has a large capacitive touchscreen. This is used to establish the initial device to application server, so your software and database communication configuration. And we support both static and DHCP communications. It also has a lot of diagnostic information about the device. So I made a little short video here to go over what all is available via our touchscreen. So let's get that started. So turn on the device very simply. It's doing an internal diagnostic test that everything is within range. The connectivity, you're either not connected, Wi-Fi or Ethernet. Push that arrow to select your user. For standalone mode operation, select your LINAC. The device has zeroed and it's ready to perform QA. The home button takes you back to this home page. I'm plugging in the Ethernet cable there, so it changes the symbol to the Ethernet connection. And that gear takes you to the menu where you're going to, if you're DHCP, make sure that your device IP address, your port numbers, your net mask, gateway, those are initial setup things you shouldn't have to touch afterwards. You can select your static or your DHCP mode here. Your app server, since this is a networked application and database, you're going to want that IP address as well. And this is something that may change, but not necessarily if it's every day the same vault that you're testing. So again, the other thing you control is your volume right here on the touch screen. Just a slide. And the back arrow to take you back. And then the other very nice thing we have here available is the diagnostics tab, which tells you a lot about your device, which helps you troubleshoot should you need to. So things like the battery, the temperature pressure sensors, what are those currently reading? Are they within range? The bias being applied to the detectors in the array. Your temperature sensors over in the chamber area. We also track the charge to the center chamber. That's helpful for diagnostics over time. We also have a diode over the electronics area. So again, we're monitoring that. And again, some battery information. Their chambers, you can actually within here individually zero chambers if you want to. And the arrow up and down arrows are how you can look at each chamber within the device and zero those individually if you want to. Of course, we store your serial number, important information. And this last item here is about your Ethernet, well, the Wi-Fi connection. We always want to know the firmware that's installed on the device. That's why we have that there. And then you can see on the home page here, it's got your battery level. If it was plugged in, there'd be a little lightning bolt letting you know that you're currently charging, your firmware version, and again, your connection status, your standalone mode entry to select your user and LINAC, and the gear to give you a bunch of information and your communication setup for the device. Now, that I'll reiterate that communication setup is an initial setup step that normally doesn't need you to do anything on a day-to-day basis, right? So that is what is available via the touch screen. Nice thing about it as well is everything is spelled out here versus our BeamChecker Plus device, which always has 3-letter abbreviations. I never really like those because I can't remember 3-letter abbreviations every day. So it's very nice. Should there be an out of tolerance, it'll show you an alert, say constancy at 3.26% would be in an alert range. It'll flash, it'll reset, and you can go on to your next measurement. So, of course, with a new device, it calls for new software. And here again, we've improved the user experience with a browser-based interface. Active Directory user setup and login are now available. And we now have a unified database for all of your devices instead of an individual database for each individual device. So now let's go look at that. I'm just going to stop sharing for a quick minute so I can get to the right screen. And there's a couple that I want to make available. Here, all right. Now let's get you back on sharing the screen. All right. So we're actually deep into things. Here's the landing page where you can for the BeamChecker Pro software. If you're familiar with our Doseview 3D or our stereo checker, you will totally get this look and feel, or our MAX Elite Electrometer, this look and feel of and workflow of our software. Our gear over here is where the settings are. And one of the things that we offer is, again, a dark mode, which is really helpful to ease eye strain, depending on what type of QA you're doing and when you're doing it. This is often preferred by users. Your settings, again, this is where we offer some additional organizational hierarchy input, if you will, here. So if you are a single clinic with a single LINAC, you just have that information to enter, and that will default everywhere. If you're a complex hospital system that has multiple locations, but as chief physicist, you need to know what's going on with each of them, or you have regional people or individual site chief physicists, all of, whether it be simple or very complex, we support all of that within the software. Here I've created a Western division and individual clinics, and since it is a web-based application, selecting items is going to take you to further information. So for example, who is the physicist administrator or multiple administrators at a specific site? We keep necessary, required input fields to a minimum to make it as fast as possible for you to get started. But of course, if you want to enter all the information, it's there for you to do so. Machines, again, we're going to take a look at Midvale Clinic. We have a TrueBeam setup. Mayberry Clinic, what do we have? We don't. This is where you would add a machine if we wanted to, because we don't have any set up there yet. And again, it's very simple what we ask for: the name of the machine, choose your machine type, your SAD, add your energies, super simple, 6. And we fully support MV, MEV, and FFF beams. For those of you familiar with the Plus, there was more of a workaround there than the full support. Now we have the full support. Going to cancel out of that because we're not going to save anything. Users, now this looks very complex, but it's not complex. It's dead easy. It looks complex because we want to offer a lot of information and management from a single screen. But again, notice the only 2 required fields are display name and a username. So it actually is very easy to set up a user. If I'm setting up a new user, I'm not using Active Directory in this case, so I would have to select their username, password. We'll go Jeff M. Jeff, password. If you want to put job title, put it in. You can save that. So once you have made that assignment, or you created that user, you have to assign them, especially, again, if you're a multi-layered organization. Are they assigned to the entire division? So maybe they are an authorized physicist. Notice that when we have here, we have therapist, physicist, authorized physicist, and physicist administrator as standard presets, but any of these can be configured differently for specific users, individual users, as you may want to do. You can create new role types using this user permission section, but only, of course, those with the rights within the software to do that. So if I'm an authorized physicist, it automatically populated that. If I change that to here, I'm just a physicist, you can do that. You can rearrange things, because if somebody maybe is just covering, so you don't really want them regular rights or fuller rights, you can adjust those as needed. Now I'm thinking that I need to take this down a notch so you can see everything. All right. So when I say that, notice we can also populate for all the child ones. So these are the rights, this is always going to show you the rights within the software. You can see choosing a lower level that there are less things available. As a physicist administrator, I can go and create a different security group. It's a copy situation. You're going to want to copy and give it a new name, senior, right? And then decide what else you might want them to be able to do. Maybe generate report or application preferences. We'll just do that, right? And then as long as that is saved and okay, then that is automatically added to your choice. So it's very quick and very easy. And really what that does is just say, okay, when I select a person, I'm going to see, let's pick somebody who's got something, I'm going to see what they're assigned at each location, and what that means then if they're at different sites, what rights do they have? But it was very little input that was actually required to do that. As for devices, this is something that's new and different as well. In the current device, you have this concept of rooms so you're limited in that sense up to 9 rooms, which may get used, a single LINAC may occupy, if you will, more than 1 room. Here, that is not the case. It's the combination of your site, your LINAC, and then which device you choose that is available. You see, I've got 2 that are considered online, which is available for use. If somebody is actually actively taking measurements with a device, it will be locked. It's online, it's in use, but it will be locked so nobody else can do anything with that. This is also the location where you would configure Wi-Fi credentials. So if your bunker has Wi-Fi, that's a Wi-Fi access point, and that information for the SSD and the password for that access point are what are required in order to use that Wi-Fi capability. Synchronize is something that you do when you first receive the device, because when you first receive the device, we will have done our factory calibration for it. We will have done our, internal quality control test before it's sent to you, which means it's synced to our network, and you want it synced to your network. So you would synchronize with your software and device connected, because as you're setting up your sites and your users and your baselines, that information needs to be communicated to the device's internal memory in order for you to use the standalone mode going forward for daily QA, which is by far the very fastest way to perform QA. No matter what anyone claims, it truly is very, very fast. So you need to synchronize to your network, your device, and your initial software setup that way. And we'll just go out of there. And then the Active Directory, I don't think I have it set up for this particular machine, but really what we say when we're saying Active Directory is we want to create a path, and nothing but a path. We're not being able to edit anything or do anything other than view the list of people who would potentially be using this device. And therefore, when you create that user, you can simply say, I want them to be able to use their login credentials. If it's set up, there's a little thing saying it's a local user. A local user would be if you have a locum physicist covering a maternity leave. They're not necessarily within your Wi-Fi credential, or your system credentials, your Windows credentials, login stuff. They might be in as a Gmail account for all we know. So it's really just for those that are regular staff that you'd be, and all you have to do is choose somebody from the drop-down list. So I think I've gone over settings endlessly. So let's move on to other things. What is the first thing that you're going to want to do is create a baseline. Right now, I'm at my Midvale clinic. I'm working on my TrueBeam, and I haven't set any baselines yet. I'm not officially under a Beam, so we won't actually create it, but just to give you an idea of what the input fields are. You create a name, static, what's your energy, your SSD, whether you have a wedge or not. And again, this will be, we have a couple created in the system. Whatever you've created is what will be displayed. Your gantry angle 0. And yes, this does, an optional gantry mount is available for this if you need it. We expect 100% output, your nominal dose, and then the typical dose rate. But again, we support from 50 MU on up to 2400. And set your alerts, make any notes you want to do, and the device is ready to, yes, okay. 6ME. I have found that people have very particular names for their baselines. So whatever you use clinically, what you've been using clinically, that you can just set them up here the same way. Click start, acquire that baseline, and then going forward, you can, once you have that baseline or all of your baselines, you can use what we say standalone mode. Your device is on the couch. It doesn't need to, if you've got a charge, doesn't need to be connected to power. It absolutely doesn't need to be connected to any software. It also doesn't even need a network connection, right? Because it is truly standalone mode, so that you can acquire your data even if the IT server is down or your physics server is down. At the moment, it's not going to impede you accomplishing your daily QA. Once you've created baselines, you can copy them so that it goes much faster. You don't have all those fields to put in. Maybe you create 120 by 20 and then you change the energy for all the energies and save each one of those separately. We also have, if you inadvertently create a baseline with something incorrect, you have the ability also to delete a baseline if you have the correct authorization to do so. There is that ability to do that. So we don't clutter things up with things that you're not using anymore. Of course, users and Linux, if you decommission a Linux, those things are archived so that your data is always there, and that you can report on it, CSV or PDF, of course. Now, we do have the software, right? So even though we really do talk a lot about standalone mode, you have the software in order to create those baselines. That device to software connection is needed. But we do offer people to use the device in real time. We call it real-time mode. It's pretty standard how everybody else is doing things. I'm going to deliver my energy and therefore see the profile displayed and all of the results displayed right here on screen. But you don't have to select which energy you're testing or anything like that, because it's telling you what baseline it detected. You verify that, and it will give you all your measurement results based on that. You have the option to save or discard that acquisition here in real-time mode. Something else that we offer that I don't think anybody else has something similar. We offer this with our BeamChecker Plus as well as our new BeamChecker Pro, and that is physics mode. So if I want to do some troubleshooting or I want to do some research things and just gather some data, I never know. You physicists are always up to something interesting, but it is a feature that current users of our current BeamChecker or BeamChecker Plus device have appreciated. We, of course, continued that because they appreciated it. And this is a case where you are going to tell the system what I am delivering. You will get that measurement, and that is an export to a CSV file only, because the data collected in physics mode should not touch your normal database, impact that in any way, shape, or form. This is just like research troubleshooting, and that's why it's a CSV only export there. Last but certainly not least is baselines, or excuse me, the analysis page. So again, notice as I'm navigating through here, I'm clicking on things to see stuff. This, we can all agree, is garbage data, but that's because it's our test data where we're introducing a new slight change from yesterday to force things into alerts and errors in order to make sure that alerts and errors are correctly displayed. So from here, you can see from this baseline, here are all of my measurements. Another important thing is when you do a rebaseline, that is graphically displayed. Full details on that information is contained in the CSV report. What you started with your original one, and then annually or after a field service, you got to do a rebaseline. That information is fully detailed with the baseline metrics reported in the CSV file. To see the profile measurement of an individual beam, again, you select a measurement from the list, and then you can see the measurement, current measurement against the baseline, in plane, cross plane, and centigrade or picocoulomb. So same type of data, but in different ways. And of course, you have your typical, you can zoom in on data if you want to. Oh, what am I doing here? If I want to zoom in on something to get a closer look, once you've accumulated a year's worth of data, that definitely gets scrunched down as you collect it, right? So you can certainly zoom in and then reset to go back. So again, and we have defaults here, past 30, 90 days, past year, but we of course also have a custom date range. So should you want to, after you've accumulated a lot of data, really look more closely at a specific date range, or an auditor comes in and says, I want to see a specific date range, then you can of course pull that up and print that report. And of course, the CSV report includes a lot of information, not just baseline metrics and measurement metrics, but all the raw chamber data as well as corrected, and what those temperature reading sensors read for each measurement within the device. So a wealth of information for you. That, I think, I'm going to stop sharing again for a second and go back to my PowerPoint. So, oops, and I got to share again, don't I? Everybody wants me to share. So, share, and hang on, current slide. I'm not sure if this is going to show the right thing. Sorry about that. I'm not sure if I'm sharing the right thing.
No, I'm not seeing
Okay.
anything.
Okay,
You have to go through the Teams maybe to share.
Okay, hang on. I gotta swap and then go through here and share. Now, hopefully you're seeing something. So
we're still not seeing it. I think maybe you have to go through the Teams to share through Teams again.
I did that, but I'll do it again. Share, and there we go. That should be working now.
Yep, looks great. Thank you, Andrea.
All right. So I'm sure many of you are curious about where this is available. So regulatory wise, we've completed the United States, Canada, European Union, Australia, Japan. Next on our list is Brazil. And for markets that, if you're in a different market from any of those listed, please reach out to us because we'll take those on as a case-by-case basis. The regulatory environment is never getting less complex, and therefore it becomes a bit burdensome, but we absolutely want this to go far and wide around the world. So don't hesitate to ask, and we'll get to work on that for you. So just to summarize, fast, simple, and made to last. It's a new detector array, new touchscreen display, new connectivity, new automation, and a new unified database. All of those things make life a lot easier for everybody, especially your therapists. You want to keep those therapists happy in the morning. They're the ones in early working hard. So let's make their work less hard. And in case anybody's interested in knowing, we are continuing with our initial 2-year warranty on this device for software and hardware. Of course, extensions on that warranty are available. We will be supporting this for a very long time to come. So that, I believe, is oh, yep, and our new browser-based software. We cannot forget about that. And then let's open it up to questions. Does anybody have a question I can help with? And I'm going to let my dear colleague monitor that.
Hey, Andrea, looks like we have a few questions. If you guys have more questions, keep submitting them. You can use the Q&A tab at the top of your screen or in the chat, and we'll grab them from there as well. Someone was just kind of wondering if you could talk more about that standalone mode. They weren't as familiar with it, so they're just curious about that.
Yeah, so this is something that really is unique to our device. It's doable because we really were the original people and still the only people, as far as I know, that have a really robust automatic energy detection algorithm in play. And due to the robustness of our ion chamber technology, something we are extremely well known for, that is something that aids in the automation of all kinds of things within the software, but really that energy detection. We have an internal memory on the device. Depending again on how many Linux and baselines you create, it can hold up to about 650 measurements. And that would be, if you're using one device across a couple of Linux, then imagine that that's probably about 300 measurements per Linac. So the standalone mode, again, they don't really have to worry about anything. The storage of the device should be on the power data cradle, which is plugged into the network with an Ethernet cable, so that data is downloaded as soon as the device is put back onto the cradle after using standalone mode, or if your server is down, when that server is available, it will be automatically transferred. And it really, even for people who use our BeamChecker Plus, I've been to multiple sites that are using our BeamChecker Plus in order to test our fabulous new BeamChecker Pro. And they're like, wow, I didn't think you could make my life faster and easier, but you actually did. That this, especially talking to physicists, are like, I really see the automation, and the reset is a big deal. If you're having a bad day on your Linac, you might have to go into the vault multiple times to reset the device in order to continue. You don't have to do that anymore. It's really good and easy to go. For those people who don't have Wi-Fi in the bunker or don't use it because, IT departments are a little leery sometimes of that, and you want truly the fastest and easiest, then you can also set it to static mode in order to know that the IP addresses are set and always set, if you will, to use that standalone or real-time or physics mode. So I hope that helps. Happy to give individual demos on things where you can ask lots of questions. Just reach out to your sales rep to get that scheduled. Are there any other questions, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm seeing just one more come through. So if you have them, just submit them so we can make sure to touch on them during this presentation. But this person was wondering, do the users have to calibrate the device?
So no, we do a factory calibration, and our ion chamber technology built into the device is very, very robust. It's one of the reasons that we, via the touchscreen, allow you to see the diagnostics of what's going on within the chamber array. So that gives you a point of troubleshooting. If, you know, in a couple of years I mean, it really varies even with our current device. People go a very long time without talking to our customer care at all. But should you do it, through those diagnostics, you're more than likely to discover if it's something that needs to come in for repair, and then we would do that recalibration. We don't incorporate diodes except over the electronics, so that is not something that degrades over time. The more radiation that's given to it, I mean, it's more robust, right? Everything getting hit daily with radiation, we all know what that means, but this is very, very robust.
Perfect, thank you. And one more came through. Could you just reiterate the warranty on the device?
So
Please.
yeah, we provide an initial software and hardware maintenance contract that covers 2 years, that's included in the purchase. And we, of course, have maintenance plans so that you can make sure that you are covered for software and hardware updates as they become available, and extend that, you know, up to probably whatever you need, right? Thinking beyond 7 years is often difficult in the current climate, but if you need 7 years, there's a program for those 5 additional years.
Awesome, thank you. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay, well, in that case, it's time for me to say thank you very, very much for being here today. Appreciate it no end. And like I said, you know, I do want to, I mentioned support a couple of times. It's always good to give them a shout out. They're a fantastic team. They are here to help you resolve any problems you have. They are also here to support you setup and training wise, as you may want or need. We're here to help.